Before I hand things over, I just want to set the stage, and Dave's going to give us a little bit more context. But across the prairies right now, when you're looking at the farm budgets going into this year, the story keeps coming back. It's pretty consistent. The margins are tight, and depending on the crop mix in the region, a lot of projections would suggest farms would be somewhere in the range of $25 to $50 per acre below break even. If we see average, I think that's an important word, is average. How do we be above average? That's why we're here today. Some folks are going to outperform that, and that's measurable. And those farms are doing certain things that lead to success. Like Jake, we were talking about how Jake is in that top 25 percentile of knowing where he's at situationally. So that's really what we want to focus on today. The markets have been moving around quite a bit. We've seen a rally in the grain charts recently, but we've also got a war in a place that's the third largest urea producer on the planet. So a lot of stuff on the move, and want to untangle that and find out where is your revenue floor, or where's your break even, at what point do prices, yields, and costs start to put real pressure on your business. That's the purpose of today's session. And Dave's going to be physically walking us through a spreadsheet, and I want to encourage, again, questions and comments all the way through. Dave, you can give us a little bit of where we're at situational.
Yeah, I guess we get the luxury of seeing couple thousand farms a year, and we get 10 years of their financial statements as part of our underwriting for 2026, and then we look at their crop plan and their budget for 2026 and forecast that out for the year. That's how we approach our underwriting. The benefit of that is that we get to see a broad brush of different financial scenarios, but some themes start to evolve as you look at more and more of them, and you start to separate them into different regions. The trends start to become apparent, but I think it is important to sort of back the bus up a little bit and frame it and get some context. So Dan, when you invited me to come on, it was a chance to stand on my soapbox and sort of pontificate about why we need to do it a certain way. And Dean being on the call is apt, because Dean trained me on how we do this. But I sent out the little PDF, I guess that was yesterday. We sent that PDF that any of the attendees that were registered earlier would have received, and anybody that wants it can obviously have it. The PDF basically walks you through how to break down the farm financial statements. And once you know how to break down the farm financial statements, you can look at your farm, and then the information that I present is broken down the exact same way. And I think one of the tricks with this is that when you come on different webinars and podcasts and government publications and different consultants and different accounting firms, everybody does it differently. And I believe that doesn't serve the industry very well at all. Actually, it means that we don't have a common vernacular. And yes, there are benefits of different ways of producing financial statements and looking at your numbers. But in my experience, this is sort of the 1.0 version of doing that every farm can do themselves. It's accessible, which makes it much more, we'll say everyone can do it, and you can compare every farm against every other farm because you've done a common theme throughout. I'll share my screen just to make...
Yeah, hopefully you've got permissions there if you allow. Good morning, Brett Jensen. Dave, are you most guys doing accrual now versus cash?
Our customer base, 95% are accrual as a function of tax more than anything, but the accrual financials is the frame to set this up. You can do it with cash. Just means you get a lot of messy results when you do it that way. If you're doing it with cash, I would take it an average.
That's really just an indication that they're learning and understanding their farm better. And then taking that, if you just know this information but don't change your behavior and don't compare to how good to strive for improvements, then it wouldn't automatically make your farm better. But it's always the competitive forces and the competitive nature that if you and Dave and I owned a Jiffy Lube, and Dave was doing 8 oil changes per hour and you were doing 9 and then I was doing 7, we would all think we're doing all that in a bag of chips. And then we'd go into our peer groups that Jake talked about, whether it's Backswath or whether it's Terry Betkers or Rob Sykes or Evans. They're all very positive, because then Dave and I, we might not ever get to 9 oil changes that Dan is, but we'd understand that it's possible and we'd strive to make improvements. And then Dan might learn something else from us. But that power of learning and comparing and striving for improvement in the art of the possible, that's the magic to these numbers. These numbers just let it be a simple, easy measure.
Great comments. How's your Jiffy Lube, folks? And what the old maxim, what you measure will improve. Michael Musky's asking or commenting, we are already calculating our yields based on last fall's moisture, snow on the ground, and the nutrients used up from last year's crop yields and soil test. Is this a good strategy?
Sounds exceptional.
Michael, you're doing great. High fives.
High level of agronomy to be that far ahead.
Right.
That's remarkable. Les Henry always, we were so busy congratulating ourselves on how exceptionally we were and continuous cropping and direct seeding. And we said, we're indestructible farms. And then I remember Les Henry's comment that he goes, I think we underestimate subsoil moisture and its impact on our crops long-term. So understanding all those factors, anybody who can even have that conversation is doing fabulous. So I love to see that in the industry.
Well, let us know how you're doing. What does your budget look like there, Michael? How are you feeling about this year? I'd love to know. And go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, Les Henry always said that water in the ground is money in the bank.
God bless Les Henry for sure. Good stuff. David, you're going to walk us through some more workshop-y stuff here.
Yeah, and so I'm just bringing up a spreadsheet that shows sort of the farm financial scenario. These are just highlighting the point, and I'm not sure if there's any government or quasi-government people on the call, banks. They need to understand this, and that so the LPM, labor pound machinery, is the yellow bars, and the LBF is the blue, and then inputs is seed, fertilizer, and chemical is the orange. You know, we go from a $250 to $550 break even between 2010 and 2016. Over that 16-year period here, we've more than doubled our break evens on our operations.